Coach, I don't think we need to talk too much about the homestand. We've done that for the last 2 weeks. Let's talk about moving forward and maybe just what the response was like from your team in the first couple days of practice this week.
Well, I think anytime you get to reset and have a day off and come back to work, it's always a good thing. And I think from our perspective, we had 2 good practices. We're getting healthy. So anytime you're getting quality bodies back, I think it rejuvenates guys. And, from a coaching perspective, we're just hoping here between now and the end of the All-Star break, we'll be as healthy as we've ever been. And if that can happen, hopefully we can put some win streaks together and, get into that 4 or 5 slot. And that's really our focus. But in the meantime, we've got 5 games between now and the All-Star break. And I think it's important that we play good hockey and maybe turn some of those games that maybe we deserved a little bit better. Maybe there was maybe lack of execution for short periods of time that ended up costing us the game. So that's what we're looking to do tonight.
I do want to talk about the injuries, and I know you gave a full update to Joel for BellevilleSens.com yesterday as well. But Lassie Thompson and Robbie Arvente are both on the trip, which has to be good news.
Yeah, that's great news. Robbie's been out since November 29th, so pretty much be 3 months to the day when he gets back in the lineup, either Friday or Saturday. We'll just see how the next couple of days goes. With Robbie, it's more about conditioning because with the type of injury that he had, there just wasn't a lot of skating being done to keep up with his conditioning. And Thompson, he cleared his impact test on Monday in Ottawa, and he's been out 6 weeks as well. So I think we'll look forward to getting those guys back in at some point this weekend, and that's always good news from that perspective.
You'll also get Rourke Chartier back from Ottawa. JBD is back, and obviously Jake Lucchini has been back a couple of games as well. What does having those guys back mean to you and your club?
Well, I think when you look at JBD's 13 games, he's a plus player. I think he leads our team in plus minus at +6. So obviously he's a big part of the penalty kill, and it's been a season where he's been up and down, and so now we'll just take advantage, hopefully, of him being with us for now. And anytime you can put him back with Heater, it just gives you that real solid pair that Bellsy can throw it against other teams' top players, and obviously first over the boards on the PK. So that's great. Center ice position has been one of in flux all season and has lacked depth just because of injuries and recalls. And Luch has been forced to play a lot of center when he's here, and we'll have to again this week, with Ridley Gregg up. And so thankfully we got Chartier back because he can certainly get in there and replace Ritter. Selfishly, you'd love to have both those guys, but Sharts comes back, and I think we all know what he's meant to the team this year. He still leads the team in goals. He was in Ottawa for 6 weeks and still leads the team with 14 goals. So that tells you what he can bring to the table, and obviously another guy that I think can help our penalty kill. Penalty kill's been a struggle, most recently, and quite frankly for a couple months now. We've been a little bit leaky in that department, and anytime you don't have a guy like a JBD or a Shart who was killing penalties in the NHL, that'll help. So I think he's just going to add a real solid 200-foot game to us, and I think we might have to be a little bit patient, because it's not like he's got sent down from playing games or healthy scratching up there. He was out with an injury, and 4 weeks is even though his type of injury allowed him to skate, you're going to look for a couple days here to be patient. So that's all positive news. Just a matter of hopefully getting the goaltending department on track here, hopefully soon.
Well, and speaking of goaltending, Kevin Mandolese will make his 4th straight start. It's only the 2nd time in his career he's started that many games consecutively. Is there concern about the workload at all?
Well, no, it can't be. Like he's over his short pro career, he's been injured as well. And they need to play games, not only for their own careers, but for the organization to evaluate. So last week, obviously he was pressed into 3 games, and he might have to do it again this week. We don't know what Sogaard's situation is. He is day to day, and can we get him in Friday or Saturday in Springfield? I guess there's an outside chance. He is on the trip, so that's a positive news. But Mando's got to step up. I thought there was moments in all 3 games last week where he was really good, and there are moments where the consistency needs to allow us to as I tell the players, let's one goal against less, and that's not only on the D, the forwards, but it's on our goaltenders too. So that's what we're going to look for Mando starting tonight.
You mentioned Ridley Gregg going up. Safe to say he's deserved that look, I think, in the NHL.
Absolutely, and we've thought that it was going to come later in the season. I think the organization probably felt that as well. I know Pierre Dorion mentioned 50 games, and when we spoke about Ridley Gregg back in training camp in September, his vision all along was to try and get Ridley up towards the latter part of the season. But, things happen, right? And, he's been very, very good. He's arguably been our best player probably the last 4 weeks, or at least our best 200-foot player. Maybe a little bit of an offensive slump last week, but still over the boards, penalty killing and taking important face-offs. And with Norris out for the season, getting surgery, it's the time is now, and so I think they have 4 games prior to their winter break and All-Star break. So it'll be a good opportunity to see where he's at the NHL level, and I expect him to be back after or prior to their break. But in the meantime, he's going to get 4 real good looks, and sounds like they're going to throw him right in the fire with 2 pretty good players. So unfortunately, we won't be able to watch it tonight. But I did speak to him, Sunday afternoon, and obviously very excited, and not a real emotional guy, but he's thrilled, and I expect he'll be a real good player for them tonight.
Yeah, we'll be keeping an eye on that for sure. And then for tonight, the Laval Rocket are not an unfamiliar opponent by any means. What's the game plan tonight, and is there maybe an increased sense of urgency given the time of season and the way things have been going lately?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime you come back from the All-Star break, I think that's when you start looking at specifically, in our situation, maybe not the Toronto Marlies who can afford losses, but from our perspective, post All-Star break, every night is really a playoff game for us, because if you look at the division right now, we're really in a dogfight with Cleveland, Laval, maybe Syracuse to some degree. Those other spots are not necessarily all taken for, but unless a team like Rochester, Utica, or Toronto starts losing 8 or 9 in a row, those teams are going to be tough to catch, even if you're winning hockey games. Now, in saying that, a lot of divisional play, but for us, just with the homestand being 1-4-1 and where we're at, this week's critical for us. So we got 5 games prior to the All-Star break, and we've got to find a way to win some of those games to just set us up for a better push in the second half after the All-Star game.
And how do you start that page turning tonight? Well,
I think when it comes to Laval, obviously the momentum swings is huge, and we talk to our guys a lot about it. And when you're dealing with a young team, it's sometimes easier said than done. And I think we've seen that against Hershey. When you're controlling a hockey game for 45 minutes, and next thing you know, you're on the losing end of it. So on the road here with a good crowd, great atmosphere, we've had success in this building, so guys shouldn't be afraid of that. But at the end of the day, it's about executing our game plan and being mindful of some of the areas that they're strong at as well.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate the time.
Okay, thanks, Footy.